Joining me now is Daniel Kreeger. He's the co-founder of a group that's focused on addressing the risks and opportunities of climate change. Daniel, as we heard our reporter in Kunming say, a previous declaration in 2010 in Japan also set lofty targets for the year 2020, none of which were met. How is this going to be any different when it's a declaration, not a binding agreement?
Well, Azier, so first of all, thank you for having me on this evening. And, we really face the same challenge in the context of the world's response to climate change. The Kyoto Protocol was the first effort to try and reduce global emissions, and it was a catastrophic failure. And as we look at the Paris Agreement, which was the second really meaningful global effort to try and tackle global emissions, we're not on pace to even hit the targets established under that. And so world leaders are trying to come together to figure out, well, this model hasn't been working. There's a recognition that we need to do more. The question becomes, what's the mechanism that really is going to enable us to actually do it? It's going to need to be more than will and more than conversation, and we're not there yet.
So what is the answer to your own question?
So, I think part of the challenge that we have is the rubric of the United Nations to begin with is one, this whole concept of binding. The United Nations doesn't have binding capacity to really do anything. So I think really the kinds of political pressure and investments and cooperation that countries, and in particular world leaders, can make here is going to have to be leadership by example. I think countries throughout the EU, China, India, Brazil, the United States are all going to have to play really, really significant leadership roles and partnership roles to drive this forward.
What about funding conservation, Daniel, in developing countries that simply don't have the means or resources? Does a discussion like this, a declaration like this, what does it mean for them?
Well, and this is the exact same negotiations that have been taking place for 30 years in the international climate talks. Countries who are going to be hardest hit by climate change, have the least capacity to respond to it, are asking the countries who caused it and have the greatest amount of resources to help. I think we're looking at the exact same paradigm here. It's going to be incumbent upon first world countries whose consumption and industrialization has driven an enormous amount of this. Let's be honest. The Industrial Revolution and our urbanization has really driven this problem. So those who have the resources, because they've industrialized and developed, are going to have to put this forward, because if they want the industries that are dependent upon that biodiversity to continue to thrive, they better have that biodiversity in place.
Daniel, talk to us about the issue of conservation and biodiversity. Why are they so key in protecting our planet?
Well, so what we're looking at right now is under some of the, I don't want to say worst case scenario, because we really actually don't know what our worst case scenario is on climate change, but we're looking at the possibility and likelihood of losing as much as half of our species, if not more, if we keep going business as usual on climate change. And then when you add in the other things that we're doing in developing, industrializing, and overpaving, what we're doing is we're harming ecosystems that are vital for medicine, for food, for agriculture, for timber, for other industries, for mineral extraction and such. We need these systems in place, and we need these systems in place to protect us from warming planet and rising sea levels. So we have to get this in place, because this is not the environment that surrounds us. This is the environment that sustains us.
Yeah, very well said. Daniel Kreeger, thank you very much.